Love often takes unexpected twists and turns, but that just makes the story more interesting.
I caught her, and that was it.
Oh my goodness, I think I'm falling in love with this boy.
I told my husband, if you marry me, you're going to laugh for the rest of your life.
Join us as we continue to bring to life the Canadian love stories of romance, family, friends, and community.
Well, love is the most important thing.
I think so many of us walk around this planet feeling inadequate. And I think we're searching for something that's going to change that. And nothing is going to change it. Nothing is going to change it unless that change comes from within. And that requires a belief that we are adequate.
Hi, everyone, and happy 2026. We're so glad you're starting the new year with us. And in this episode, we're doing things a little different, and it's very much needed. As the pressure of New Year's resolutions ramps up, we are slowing things down and asking a gentler question. What if the new year didn't have to be about fixing ourselves? Whether you're feeling hopeful, overwhelmed, or somewhere in between, this episode offers permission to breathe, reflect, and start the new year on your own terms. So let's get into it.
Dr. Taslim, thank you so much for joining us today on the Canadian Love Map.
Thank you for having me.
With everyone thinking about New Year's resolutions, you have so much information and wisdom to offer around it. Are you sought out by a lot of people for this purpose?
You know, I think at this time of year, you're right. There are a lot of people who are thinking about what they want next year to look like. We usually do see a peak in folks looking for services. And then also, some requests for more knowledge for the wider population around New Year's resolutions, and also maybe the opposite of New Year's resolutions sometimes too.
Yeah, let's start there, actually. Tell me about the opposite.
Yeah. So I think many of us are taught to believe that the best way to make a better year is to commit to goals. But that's not always the best way, depending on what's going on in our lives, especially when there is a lot of chaos or a lot of change. Sometimes the best thing that we can do is to continue to do what we're doing. We don't always need to change. And sometimes there's also a push to change in ways that we don't actually want to or we're not ready to. And then we kind of walk away feeling disappointed in ourselves or feeling like a failure, which then makes our year a lot worse.
It's just another reason to be disappointed in ourselves.
Exactly.
And feel like we're not enough. Really, that's what we're talking about, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
How did you get into this work, may I ask?
Yeah. So from a very young age, I knew that part of the reason that I was on this planet was to make the world a better place. And to me, that does mean helping people understand their own potential and helping improve people's quality of life. And when I think about the different messages that all of us get around what it means to be a good person, a whole, full, satisfied person, there's a lot of mixed messages. And sometimes we lose sight of what it is that we really want in all of that messaging. And so, part of my work involves helping people really tune into what it is that they want for themselves, for their communities, and for their lives, and to help them choose those things as opposed to the noise that is around them.
So once you identify, or they identify that with you, is there also a lot of work involved in helping them understand that they're worth it? Because sometimes I think the human condition is such that we may see something we want, but secretly not believe that we deserve it.
Absolutely. And I think, that is a challenge for many of us. I know it's a challenge for myself a lot of the time too. One of my favorite things to tell people is that we don't have to believe we deserve it in order to do it. We can wait for that to come. If you want to wear that, if you want to go there, if you want to send in that application for a new job, don't wait until all the circumstances are right to do it. Just do it anyway.
Oh, I really love that. Actually, it's like a physical form of manifestation or affirmation, if you will.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, you said from a young age you wanted to make the world a better place and it sounds like you're very curious about the human condition. What was your trajectory like in terms of getting into this work?
Yeah. So, uh, becoming a clinical psychologist requires a lot of school. So, following that traditional path, because for me, the world does not just involve my local world, it involves the entire world. I made a little stop in the international development world. So, I did a master's in international development studies before starting clinical psychology in the hopes of feeling inspired about how to make the world a better place. I walked away from that master's, mostly learning that my idealistic ideas about the world were probably going to do more harm than good, but it was a good and hard lesson to learn. And I think a humbling one, especially as I continue to do advocacy work and to work with people and learn from people, is that I can't go into any situation assuming I know what better quality of life means. That's harmful. It's harmful in my clinical work. It's harmful in my advocacy work. So, not exactly what I was hoping to get out of there, but definitely what I needed to get out of there.
What did that chapter teach you about human psychology?
Well, it taught me a couple of things. One is that often people know what they want and people are doing the best that they can. Um, and when we go into communities assuming that those communities are in need, we lose sight of what those communities already have. Now, when we bring that back to the human condition, this idea that people, whether it's needing partners or needing to get married or needing to lose a certain amount of weight or needing to reach a certain type of financial stability, those might be my ideas of what good quality of life means, but that isn't necessarily what everyone else's idea of good quality of life means. And so if I come into the conversation already assuming that I know what this person's life should look like, I will never be able to see the resources, the strengths, and the satisfaction with which they are currently living.
And so as you got closer to your goal, as you say, it takes a lot of school, a lot
Yeah.
of studying, a lot of blood, sweat, and tears, no doubt. As you got closer, did you feel a sense of confirmation within that, yes, I am meant to do this?
Yes and no, if I'm being 100% honest with you. I think I learned that the role of psychotherapy is a very, very small one in in the dynamic of change that a person goes through, right? I am an ally, I am a support, but I am not the vehicle of change. And I think my schooling was perhaps trying to convince me a little bit differently. And in my first years of practice, I realized that it that kind of responsibility and pressure is never going to be helpful, but it's also setting me up for very unrealistic ideas about the power that I have and how much agency my clients have in their own well being.
Whoa, that's fascinating. So it almost is a mindset as if you were a general practitioner needing to fix a problem. And instead, you're helping to facilitate a solution.
Absolutely. And I think even when we think about it with medicine, right? I think we see physicians, and some physicians think it's their job to fix people, but it's not their job because whether a person is going to take the medication prescribed to them, whether they're going to have the awareness of all of their symptoms or not, whether the physician is going to be able to provide an accurate diagnosis and that person's going to go for that blood test or not, all of that lies within the person. So when we look at it just as symptoms and interventions, we miss the person and we miss the understanding of why the person does what the person does.
Okay, so I really like that, and that schools me a little bit. I like that perspective. It's much better than the one I offered, I have to say. And it is how I feel as a patient when I am in relation with a doctor. I want to feel like I have agency for sure. So you not only became a clinical psychologist, but you founded your own clinic. Can you tell me a little bit about that before we get more into this idea of starting the new year in a fresh way or not?
Yeah. So, my clinic, it's called SILM, Center for Mental Health. It started because I realized when I started my own kind of autonomous practice that I was one person. And because part of why I do what I do is to make the world a better place, it was very hard for me to charge money. And lots of people would come to me wanting free services, and I would say yes. And I kept saying yes because I wanted to help people. And then I realized it was going to be very unsustainable for my quality of life to continue to do that. So there was that part of it, but there was also the understanding that because I am only one person, my reach is going to be limited. And if I want the world to be a better place, I cannot do that on my own. And so the idea of this practice was born. And I love it here, not just because I created it, but because I think we've really built a community. We make sure that we offer pro bono services. We offer sliding scale services. We do lots of community advocacy work. And everyone who works here cares about the world. And so I get to work with a group of individuals who are passionate and committed to the work that we do and the clients that we serve. And that makes me very happy.
Okay, so this doesn't happen though without a certain amount of goal setting. And I'm curious, was there any kind of New Year's resolution at any point that set you in this trajectory, or were they just more regular goals that you set as you progress through your journey?
I am not a goal setter.
Ah,
um, I am more of a let the universe do what the universe is going to do kind of person. I imagine, yes, I do have goals, but I think the idea of, at this time, I want to reach this goal, or, I need my clinic to look in this kind of way, or I need this many people, or we need to be serving this many clients. That has never, ever been part of how I envision this. I kind of trust that as long as I am following my values and my ethics, whatever is coming to us is what needs to come to us. Sometimes what's coming to us is very hard and not what I would have wanted, but to really lean into my own internal resources, to lean on the community that I've built, and to trust that whatever is happening is because it's supposed to happen. And often that works out. And sometimes it's just a little bit more challenging.
you're preaching to the choir. That's exactly how I proceed through life now at this age. I used to be very different, but at this point, I focus on my own sense of contentedness as well, and I find everything else falls into place.
Yeah.
Before I was coming at it from the other angle, trying to make everything fall into place so that I would be content. Yeah. So, have you ever been someone to create a New Year's resolution?
Absolutely. I think in my personal life, usually those resolutions have been related to physical activity and diet. I think those are the ones that have often felt most in my control, and they have often failed very quickly.
Yeah, I'm putting my hand up for those who can't see me. Yes, I'm with you on that. I failed quickly and hard with those
Yes.
ones, I've got to say.
And with so much shame, so
Yes.
much shame.
Right. And that's what I mean. It's like, it's almost a confirmation bias. You hear about scientists and their confirmation bias. If they're looking for something, then they're more bound to find it. And I've found that with myself. Like I will say, "Oh, there you go again. You've failed again." And it was a pattern for me that there's more proof that you're not enough. And I think that's how I've gotten in trouble with resolutions in the past.
Yeah, I think that that's probably how many of us um, engage with our resolutions is this idea that, we want this better life for ourselves. We decide that physical activity, diet, perhaps financial savings, those are the ways to get to that better life. And then each day feels like this struggle to get through with these resolutions that we have created. They feel unsustainable. And then we either feel like a failure or we feel like this better life isn't actually something we are committed to or that we don't deserve. And none of those are ever helpful for us.
Right. So is there a better way?
If I could, I would invite everyone to really think about what it is that they want. Right. And we are allowed to want more physical activity in our lives. We are allowed to want a better diet. But I think being able to pause and ask ourselves the why. Why do we want those things? Is it for more flexibility? Is it for strength? Is it to feel more desirable? When we can ask ourselves the why, we can really dig into what we feel we're missing in our lives or what we want to add in our lives. And it doesn't need to necessarily translate into a step-by-step plan, right? This idea of like, this year I'm going to lose 20 pounds. Well, how and why? And like, do you really want to do that work to get to the 20 pounds? And if you do the work and you don't get the 20 pounds, what does that mean? And so when we can really think about, okay, this year I want to commit not to losing 20 pounds, but to really making sure that every single thing I'm putting in my body is thoughtful and intentional. Then we know we're committing to health and we're prioritizing our well-being day to day, as opposed to this ambiguous goal that doesn't actually mean anything. And so the slowing down, the asking the why, the being intentional, that is the way to set ourselves up for more success and meaningful success.
The visual I have when you say that is sort of hopping off the hamster wheel to say, okay, wait a second. Why am I running on this hamster wheel
Yeah.
almost? Yeah, I also think about something I heard recently, and I'm curious what you have to say about this. I feel like it connects to what you just said. And that is, if you're going to set a resolution, like I'm going to go to the gym every day, that it's more about becoming someone who goes to the gym every day. So it's all, I guess the way they put it was, if it's part of your self-definition, like I am someone who, as you say, the why is wants to be healthy and physically fit. And so I go to the gym every day rather than, oh, I have to go to the gym today.
Mhm.
Does that resonate? I must say, when I heard it, I was like, oh, that works for me, I have to say.
Yeah, I think when we frame those things as having to or should, like I should go to the gym or I have to go to the gym, um, it's not reflective of what we actually want, right? And so, can we say we want to go to the gym? And if we really honestly and authentically want to go to the gym, we are much more likely to. And if we take that, I should go to the gym and ask ourselves, but do I want to? And the answer is no, it's a good opportunity to think through what's going on. And let's be real, some of us do need to become physically healthier, right? That's a reality for some of us. We can see the path we're going down. Maybe we have chronic health issues. And so getting healthy, whatever that means, needs to be a priority. But it doesn't have to mean going to the gym. It doesn't have to include that. And so if you are not a person who enjoys going to the gym, if you are never going to want to go to the gym, is there something that you do want to do? Do you want to have a dance party for 30 minutes every single day? Do you want to join a soccer league and play soccer once a week? Whatever those things are, when we can stop imposing these arbitrary ideas of what it means to be a healthy, fit person and how we're supposed to get there, we get to find out what actually bring us joy and commit to that instead.
You lost me at dance party. I love that so much. It's so true. Like if I danced in my kitchen for a half an hour, I would get as much of a workout as if I was on the elliptical machine or maybe more. And I would have stoked joy instead of drudgery in a way.
I mean, I agree with that. So dance parties are very important to me.
We couldn't share the great stories that we do here on the Canadian Love Map podcast without the amazing support of Charm Diamond Centres. They are Canada's largest family-owned jeweler, and they're proud to be putting love on the map. The folks at Charm Diamond Centres are thrilled to be a part of your love story. So visit charmdiamondcenters.com or one of your local stores. Love starts here.
What would you think of a New Year's resolution to accept yourself? Like self-acceptance as a New Year's resolution. This is something I'm just sort of percolating right now as we talk. What a sort of untraditional idea, but what could be more beneficial?
It sounds hard. Self-acceptance is hard, right? And I think that if we could get there, that would be incredible. I try to offer folks the opportunity for a dialectic, for two truths or multiple truths to exist at the same time. So could it be possible that we are okay as we are and we want to change at the same time, whether that is, our physical appearance, the way we connect with others, how hard and focused we are at work, whatever those things are, can we be okay the way we are and want that change for ourselves at the same time? And if we can allow that dialectic to exist, things become easier. It doesn't have to be one or the other. It's allowed to be both.
Paradox is a beautiful thing, especially when applied to yourself, I think. So I coach people in public speaking, and I deal with a lot of fear of public speaking. And what I believe is that the fear of public speaking, if you dig beneath it, is actually the fear of public being, and beneath that being seen. And if you really dig down, it's the fear of being seen as inadequate, and that self-limiting belief at the very bottom that says, I am inadequate. I see that over and over. And I feel like I'm a little subversively soulful in my work because of that. I say it's not just about giving people tips and tricks to be a better speaker. It's about being comfortable up there.
Mm-hmm.
So what advice can you, I think I see that in that realm, and I think it's true in life in general. And I can only imagine how fulfilling it is for someone like you to move the needle for people on this.
I think so many of us walk around this planet feeling inadequate. And I think we're searching for something that's going to change that. And nothing is going to change it. Nothing is going to change it unless that change comes from within. And that requires a belief that we are adequate. I think one of the things that gets in the way of that is that we're measuring ourselves up to something undefined. If we could just do X, Y, or Z, then perhaps we would be adequate. But X, Y, and Z are irrelevant to the feelings that we have. And so I wonder, for those of us, again, which I think is a lot of us walking around this planet, what does it mean to be inadequate? What does that mean for our ability to find success or love or meaning? Can we still do those things while having this feeling of inadequacy? And what would it mean to actually feel adequate? How would our lives actually be different? What would we feel that is different? And what would we do that is different? And then could we start doing those things anyway?
Yes. How would it feel to feel adequate? When you ask the question, what is it? Why are we inadequate? Or what is it going to look like to be adequate? For me, I look around our world and I think part of our problem, so many of us, is that if we're not perfect, we're not adequate in this world. Like there's this equation, I feel like perfect and adequate used to be very different places on the scale. And now it's like they're adjacent. Do you see that with people you speak with?
Yeah, absolutely. I think especially for those of us who have had, let's say, have had to fight to have a seat at the table. in whatever way, right? Whether that was at our family table and having our voice heard there, or at the professional table. When we know that we've had to fight to get there, we are fighting to stay there at any given moment. And that means that the moment we make a mistake, the moment we are seen as a failure, we lose that spot. Um, and it goes right back to feeling unheard, unseen, invaluable, and inadequate. And so we know, or perhaps we have convinced ourselves, that perfection is the only way to exist in this world, and to not be perfect means that everyone else was right about our ability to be at that table.
Wow, I've got chills. That is so well said. I think that's a universal truth. And I will say that when I wrote a book which was intended to be about public speaking, and then my editor forced me into making it a memoir, and it was a pretty vulnerable memoir, it was very much around this subject. And the greatest gift I received through the project was hearing from hundreds of people who said, "Oh, you're telling my story." And so every person who said, "Oh, yes, I see your imposter syndrome and I raise you one," that sort of thing. It was like a reminder to me every time I heard from someone who read the book or listened to the book that, guess what? This is just the human condition, and most of us participate in it. What is your best advice for people as they go into a new year? If you want to help them with that idea of self acceptance or self love, you talked about the why. How does self love relate to self care, or are they completely different things?
Yeah. I have conversations with about this with some of my colleagues and friends, because I think, there's a lot of talk around being good enough for love, right? That each of us are deserving of love and deserving of whatever it is that we want in this world. And I struggle with that. I struggle because I don't know what we're comparing it to. And what I've realized is that we are all deserving of respect and dignity, right? We might not be deserving of that promotion. We might not be deserving of, like, that fancy house or whatever it is that we imagine for ourselves. And so we constantly feel like we are not good enough. But can we trust that we are deserving of respect and dignity? And if yes, then can we treat ourselves with respect and dignity? Can we start there? And so when we notice those critical, judgmental thoughts about ourselves, can we acknowledge that perhaps we're being harsh? And can we be a little bit more gentle? We say, hey, that was kind of mean. I wouldn't say that to someone else that I love. I'm deserving of respect and dignity too. Let me try that again. And when we can start to speak to ourselves with respect and dignity, when we can have thoughts that include that we are deserving at a minimum of respect and dignity, our tone with ourselves starts to change. Our relationship with ourselves starts to change. And I think that builds the foundation of that self-love and of that self-care, because I think so many of us are also very self-neglectful and self-sacrificial. Everyone else and everything else is more important than us. One, because we have infinite capacity, it seems, for many of us. But two, I think there's a little bit of actual belief that everyone else and everything else is actually more deserving of our attention than we are. And so when, again, we can remind ourselves, no, I'm deserving of that respect and dignity too. And missing 3 meals in a row is not treating myself with respect and dignity.
Mhm.
Can we start to shift it?
What guidance can you give people in terms of the self-awareness around that? Because it's one thing to say, catch yourself, it not being kind to yourself, but
Yeah.
that's the hard thing, to get to the point where you are catching yourself. And I do sometimes, and other times I'm completely unconscious.
Yeah.
Well, not actually unconscious, but you know what I mean, acting
Mhm.
unconsciously.
I think that's it, right? I think it takes practice. So if we are committed to trying this out, I think we will notice it first with those really, really harsh moments. Maybe when we're a minute into the self criticism, whenever we notice it, to catch it and to offer ourselves a bit of compassion around the suffering that's happening in that moment, right? Acknowledging that we are being harsh, acknowledging that there is a part of us that is hurting right now, which is why we are meeting ourselves with that harshness, and offering ourselves some solace and comfort instead of criticism and shame and judgment. And so the more we can catch it, the easier it becomes to catch it. There is a strategy that I like to use with myself, and it's an evidence-based therapeutic strategy. It's called cognitive diffusion. It comes from acceptance and commitment therapy, and it's bringing a little bit of humor or lightness to our harshness. So cognitive diffusion is really about recognizing that sometimes we get really, really stuck to our thoughts as if they are real, right? I know that I often have the thought that I am a mess. And in those moments where I'm rushing out the door already 3 minutes late and my coffee spills and I am in it in that moment. And so cognitive diffusion teaches us to recognize that our thoughts are just thoughts. They are not factual. They are not real. But then to bring that little bit of lightness to it, we can sing it out. And that's exactly what I do. And so in those moments when I'm feeling all of the chaos and stuck in it, I sing to myself, I am a mess. I'm not changing it. I'm just bringing a bit of lightness to it. And so we can, do it in a funny voice. We can sing it. We can do anything to it. We don't have to challenge it. We don't have to engage in it. We just offer some lightness by switching up the way in which we are telling ourselves that.
Okay, I think that is just great, and it's funny. It's related to something I do for myself before I go on stage, and I have coached other people to do. If you're standing backstage and your heart starts to race at all, if my heart is thumping before I go out into the spotlight, I will actually backstage dance to the beat of my heartbeat.
Mhm.
And the moment I do, I didn't know I was participating in cognitive diffusion, but the moment I do, it sends a message, I think, to my nervous system to say, everything's okay.
Yeah.
And it's all good. We're good. It's fine.
Yeah.
No panic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that's it, right? The more we can give ourselves permission to pay attention to what's going on with us, the more we can meet ourselves with kindness, right? We don't need to get stuck in it. We don't need to judge it. We don't need to challenge it. We can just acknowledge that this is part of our experience right now and give ourselves permission to feel whatever it is that we're feeling.
Yes, and I do know that feeling of being a hot mess as I leave the house,
Mhm.
for the record. You are not alone, which, makes a difference. Okay, so I think most people, as you alluded to earlier, when they're setting New Year's resolutions, so often it has to do with losing weight, getting in shape, maybe making money. I don't know. I'd say those first two are the main ones. So let's focus on them. If someone comes to you and says, I need to lose weight and get in shape, and I'm not disciplined, and I've got to make these New Year's resolutions so that I change my life, what's your advice? Because I feel like we're going to speak to the hearing out there. I'm sure a lot of ears will perk up.
Yeah, I would ask why. Now, I think that there are some people who come and they don't want to talk about the why, and that's fine. If what someone wants from me is to help them come up with a breakdown of steps that they can stay accountable to, we can do that. But I imagine somewhere along the way, we will have conversations around why it isn't working, if it's not working. But if we get to the why do you want to lose that weight? Why do you want to get physically fit? What does it mean to you and how is it going to change your life? Then we can start to figure out whether the losing 20 pounds or the going to the gym every single day at 6 a.m. is the way to get there. And if that is really what resonates with the person. Sometimes our goals and the method of getting to those goals don't actually align with each other, but they're mismatched because we only know one way to get to the goal, even if it's not the way we actually want to get there.
Right. If there was one New Year's resolution you would prescribe, what would it be?
Yeah. I mean, I think you alluded to this a little bit before. I would maybe frame it as try practicing self-compassion. I can tell you, as someone who has generally been quite harsh with myself, when I first heard about self-compassion, my immediate thought was, that is too fluffy. That's for everyone else. Self-compassion is going to slow me down. What I need is accountability. And what I have learned is that it doesn't need to be one or the other, right? It doesn't need to be this fluffy, giving ourselves permission to make mistakes kind of vibe if that doesn't resonate with us. But self-compassion is about recognizing that we are not alone in our suffering. And both of us have spoken to this already, right? We've had these moments that are so isolating, and to hear that other people go through it is so validating and reassuring. And so, one, we are not alone in our suffering. And two, our suffering is painful. And so, can we acknowledge that we are hurting right now and try to take care of ourselves? It doesn't mean we have to be okay with the ways that we've let ourselves down. It's not permission to let ourselves down, but can we acknowledge that that disappointment hurts? And can we be there for ourselves in that disappointment? And if yes, we are setting ourselves up for a better year for sure.
I remember when Oprah, back in the probably late 80s, had Louise Hay on her show. And Louise Hay was an author who was all about self-love. And I remember very clearly, because Oprah was the lead-in for my news magazine show I was on. And she said, "What is this self-love?" And I think that's a lot of people's reaction. Like, it's so far from where I am in self-loathing, maybe. It's like, I can't get there from here. So I love what you're saying is very much about taking incremental steps to get there.
Absolutely. I really like the metaphor of, if we're training a donkey, not that any of us are donkeys, but if we were training a donkey, we could do so by, whipping it and kicking it and getting it to do the work, or we could feed it carrots. Both donkeys are going to get the work done, but one donkey will probably be much more content, satisfied, and be committed to doing the work for longer. And so, how do we want to train ourselves? Do we want to continue to kick and whip ourselves to get it done? Or do we want to offer ourselves some carrots? We're still holding ourselves accountable. We still need to get the work done, but we've got options in how we're getting there.
Whew, that's a mic drop moment, I think. It really is. That's the power of analogy, isn't it? It takes us from something we don't understand and bridges us to something we understand and makes the connection. I really appreciate that. What have you seen that really works well with your clients in making this kind of transition?
I think buy-in is hard, especially for those who have a history of being particularly self-critical. And so being able to, again, have them see that they're deserving of respect and dignity as kind of that first step. And so if a person can accept that they are deserving of respect and dignity, what does a person who deserves respect and dignity get? What do they deserve? What does care for them look like? Can we start there? Can we acknowledge that someone who should be doing everything right sometimes will still make mistakes? Can we acknowledge that that is hard? And instead of continuing to shame yourself, can you remember that you deserve respect and dignity in this too?
Yeah. Oh, that's beautiful. Do you have a New Year's resolution?
I think I am at the beginning of my self-compassion journey. And so, no, I don't have a New Year's resolution, but I do hope to continue to just be a little bit more gentle and kind with myself, and to notice those things. Actually, maybe one more. I have a 4-year-old at home who loves to be carried. And so I have been committed to going to the gym for a couple of years now a couple of years. And it's because I want to be able to carry him for as long as he will permit me to carry him. And so I'm just going to keep getting stronger so that I can carry him for as long as he wants to be carried.
Wow. Oh, that goes straight to my heart, because I have sons who are 28 and 26 and a daughter who's 18. And
Do any of them want to be carried?
Any of them anymore, but there is that day, you look back as a parent when your children are grown and think, there was a day that was the last time that I was able to carry them, or that they let me carry them. And I didn't know it at the time. What if I'd known that day that that would be the last time? Oh my goodness. Okay, we're going down a completely different road now. Do you love your job?
I do love my job. Yes.
Yeah. I think it's a beautiful way to contribute to the world, helping people be self-compassionate and really kinder to themselves. And I think that would naturally make them be kinder to others.
I think so. Yeah. And I think, you know, the more we can really buy into that, the better our world does get.
Let's hear it for kindness in 2025. It's
Let's
not
hope so.
where you look these days. So let's, you know what, if we can cultivate it, everyone listening right now, if we can all cultivate it within ourselves and without ourselves, then it makes the world a little better. Yeah. Thank you so, so much for your time and for the way you show up in the world.
Thank you. Thank you for having me and letting me share my message.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Thank you so much for spending part of your new year with us here on the Canadian Love Map. If this conversation resonated with you, we hope you'll carry a little of that self-compassion with you into the weeks ahead. This podcast is hosted by Nancy Regan and proudly presented by Charm Diamond Centers, with production and distribution by Podstarter. And as always, we love sharing love stories of all kinds, including yours. So if you or someone you know has a love story that you want to add to the map, reach out to us on social media at Canadian Love Map. Wishing you a gentle, meaningful start to 2026, and we'll be back with another story of love, connection, and community soon.